Hey folks, Post here, welcome back to another Poem Master video, and today we're gonna do a tier list for all the GACHA 4-stars because we got finally a new GACHA 4-star, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to just go over all these and rank them on their usability, how good they're, and generally, you know, how much you'd probably use them, or how frequently you probably want to use these. So yeah, first of all, like the GACHA 4-star units, they're not the in general, they have issues, mostly because like nowadays units without synchrons, I won't say are bad, but definitely in comparison to units with synchrons that do similar stuff, they generally get outclassed, unfortunately. And none of the GACHA 4-star units have synchrons yet. They might have them in the future, but I don't see them really coming anytime soon, just because like there really isn't too much. I mean, just being real, there isn't too much incentive for DNA to drop, you know, grids for 4-star units. But anyways, let's go check them out. So I think these are all the ones that we have. Hopefully I didn't miss anyone, right? I used the mega version of Pinsir. That's why I didn't put Pinsir and Gengar over there, as you can see, because, you know, I don't know, I just wanted to. But yeah, that should be all of the GACHA 4-stars, right? Do combine this again, the summonable ones, not the free-to-play ones. So let's just go from the highest tier to the lowest tier, I guess. Starting with the highest tier, let's put Gengar in there. Gengar obviously gets slightly outclassed now by Serena and Delphox, right? But you know, Gengar's still really good and has good speed with the hypnosis, right? So there's always that. We got +2 or +6 speed on that as well, at a hefty cost. But you know, as long as the opponents are asleep, don't get hit, then you're good, right? So yeah, obviously you do probably want Troublemaker to make it good. Without Troublemaker, it's still fine if you have any accuracy buffers, right? Sabrina or things to Elise or whatever, right? But in general, it's just really good because sleep is really strong in this game. So yeah, that's our first S tier unit. The second one is probably going to be Rapidash, for obvious reasons. And Rapidash honestly got better recently with the release of Serena, because, well, first of all, Serena is another unit that can utilize the Sunny Day, right? But also Rapidash, because Rapidash has Fire Spin, that just saves, you know, Serena one turn of using Fire Spin herself. So you need to use Fire Spin on Serena, you could just use Fire Spin on Rapidash instead, and then you go, you know, Fire Spin into Raging Inferno into Sunny Day, and then boom, you got a really good setup for Serena, right? So Serena basically doesn't need any, you know, setup, just put up hypnosis and you're good. You can start doing insane amounts of damage. And obviously there's other units that can use it. Ethan with the speeding, I think it's Speeding Sun, right? Speeding Sun 2 or something. Red with its grid on, you know, Solar Flare 5 and Speeding Sun 2, I think, or something. I don't know. But you know, in general, fire type units just use it a lot. In general, Silver's probably a better Sun setter, but in some situations, Rapidash would be better, right? For example, in the Serena case, like I mentioned before, Rapidash is better. So there's that. Moving on to the third one that we're going to put in, you know, the highest tier is probably going to be Roserade. Roserade is basically just Brendan Sceptile, right? There's almost no difference between these two, except, you know, Brendan gets the high damage moves in earlier, and Brendan's attacks get weaker over time, and then Roserade's the opposite. Roserade starts out a bit weak, but then, you know, ramps up the damage immensely afterwards. The only difference is that if you do give them lucky skills, however, if you are, you know, giving Dauntless to either one of these, which I personally don't recommend, not that I'm not saying that the lucky skill is bad for them. It's just that when they get grids, you know, you probably would be wasting. You have a chance of, you know, wasting the cookies, right, on non-gridded units. But anyways, Dauntless is just better on Sceptile. It doesn't work as good on Roserade, but without lucky skills, these two are it's basically the same as Brendan and Sceptile. There's almost no difference, right? And obviously Brendan Sceptile is really good. Grass type striker, probably still the best grass type striker in the game. Yeah, still the best grass type striker in the game. So there's that. Anyways, moving on to the next tier of units. I'm gonna put Lucian's Viper here. Lucian's Viper does good damage, can sort of tank, right? Poisons, wraps, just does a lot of stuff, right? One of the better, you know, again, poison type units in the game. Also really, really good if you're running it with Houndoom. And is the I think the 1 out of 3 units in the whole game that could badly poison. The other one being Crobat and the Tech Zubat, Egg Zubat, right? It's probably, generally, it's probably better than Crobat at the moment, right? At 2 out of 5, but 3 out of 5, Crobat is probably more useful than Seviper in most parts. But at 2 out of 5, you probably would want to run Seviper instead. There would be some cases where you probably want to run Crobat instead, right? Because Crobat does have MGR on its moves, but like Crobat just doesn't do as much as Seviper does, right? Unfortunately. Anyways, moving on to, again, the tier 2 units. We're gonna put Noland in there. Noland used to be better. Noland just gets like outclassed by a lot of like other bug types right now. Obviously the Guzma destroys it. The Berg is generally better than it, and then the Egg Scyther that's coming out soon is not, I wouldn't say it's straight up better than Noland. It hits harder than Noland if you're using Accessors, but again, there is that variable with Fury Cutter. But Scyther is much more reliable than Noland, right? So there's that caveat. But yeah, Noland's still really, really good. Obviously, if you run it with a good team, with an Eevee or something, it's fantastic. So, the other one that I do want to put in this year is probably Salamence. Salamence is pretty standard. It's not anything crazy in terms of, like, you know, Salamence does get, again, outclassed by a lot of new defensive supports that we got in the game. Stuff like Torterra, probably Steelix as well. But Salamence is still decent, gives you defenses, both defenses, in fact. Although, you know, it is, again, a bit more situational for the most part. Actually, it's not as situational. Well, it is situational. But you can use it in a lot of cases, but like to fully utilize it, it's more situational. Also give gauges. Also have a 30% chance to paralyze with Dragon Breath. So Salamence is still a decent defensive support. Anyways, that's our first 2 tiers. Moving on to the next tier of units. We'll put Xatu in here. Xatu used to be much better. But now Impervious isn't like that big of a deal, you know. So there's that. But like you could still use Xatu as like a decent tank. Right, because Xatu does have good defensive stats, 202 on both defenses, and then decent speed as well. And you also have like a 2 gauge spam with sword power, especially if you run it with like an Eevee or something that gives you good buffs and all that stuff. And then you got Confuse Ray, 100% confusion, and then you also have flinch as well. So you could confuse, flinch. So there's that, and also you can use, you know, depending on what stage, you could use that as well. Power is limitless, so there's that. Moving on, we're going to put Aegislash in here. Here's the thing with Aegislash. Aegislash is either like really, really, really good or completely useless, right? It depends on the stage. It's very, very, very niche, right? Obviously, with a King's Shield, you could basically tank a, you know, extremely strong hit, taking 0 damage, right? And also lowering their stats. But if there's like, but it's just that like a lot of stages you don't really need it because, you know, not everything hits as hard as like a Beware Giga Impact, because you could use this to tank a Beware's, you know, Sawyer's Giga Impact, right? But again, like I mentioned before, it's just not like that widely used. It's very, very situational, right? Same with Xatu. Moving on, Roxy. Roxy's an okay striker, right? The good thing about Roxy is like you don't really need that much support. Although again, in this day and age, you know, not using supports isn't that big of a deal anymore because again, single player is mostly meta, and single player you should bring in sports, right? Even for units that do have self buffs, you should still bring in supports because that again increases their DPS. It's just that Roxy, unfortunately, has a very low damage ceiling, right? That's why Roxy isn't any higher. So there's that, I guess. But Roxy's kit is very interesting and really fun to use. So there's that. Moving on, Auroras, we're probably going to put in this here as well. Auroras, for those who don't know, it basically has, it's Rock Slide, right? Basically, you're going to be using Auroras for Rock Slide, which is an AoE flinch, right? Which is really good. And she also, is it a she? I don't even know. Oh, it's a he, sorry. So he also has aggravation on the Rock Slide. So it's an AoE Rock Slide with aggravation. You also have actually buffs on Over the Wall. So your Rock Slide doesn't miss that often. And then you also increase your move gauge by 2, and then, you know, with its speed, it's like middle of the pack, I guess. It's not bad. It's not like too great either. But the thing is, Rock Slide is a 3 gauge move, so there's that. And you're not doing damage with it. It's again just mainly for flinching, and then makes user gradually heal itself with its questionable defensive stats. But you do have X special defense, so it's like not bad if you're tanking special moves with it. And also you do have the shelters and Rock Tomb to lower opponent speed, so it has some decent uses, right? It's just very gauge heavy. Like you don't, like, if you're running it with like another 3 gauge striker, you will have gauge problems, even though you are giving yourself gauge, because you could only use it twice, so that's 4 gauges total, right? And you probably don't want to use it that often, because you're just wasting your gradually heal if you use it too often, right? Anyways, or frequently, I guess that's the better word. Moving on. Next year, Machamp. Machamp would be higher if it weren't for the fact that Wally and Lucario just blow it out of the water. It is, in a vacuum, a decent unit. Its kit actually works really well within each other, right? It has okayish attack. It's over 300, right? The speed's bad though. However, you do have cross chop, which your crits land more easily, and then you also have crit strike too. So you could just direct hit once and then go into cross chop, and then always have crit strike 2 activate, and then cross chop again. 100 power. There's that as well. The only drawback is that accuracy is 80, but you know, again, this day and age, in single player mode, there's quite a few options to increase accuracies. Either Sabrina, so there's Elisa, or Eevee, whatever, right? You could always increase that accuracy, so not that big of a deal. And then its buffs are nice as well. So again, it does good damage. It just sadly just gets completely outclassed by Lucario and Wally, right? So moving on. Toucannon. The only reason why Toucannon is this high, again, is its usability. Toucannon in a vacuum is bad. It's straight up bad. It's not good at all. If you guys ever use Toucannon, it's kind of sad, right? However, the reason why I do put it this high is, if you don't have blue, this is literally your only like flying type option. Like, I guess you could also use Rayquaza as well, but Rayquaza again is also pretty bad. Rayquaza is honestly probably worse than Toucannon, and Toucannon's bad, right? So you do have Beak Blast. Thing about Beak Blast is it's 75 power. It is 2 gauges, but it's a 2-turn move. It's a 2-turn move to like get 75. Like, ugh, it's not good. It's not good. And then if it gets hit by a physical attack move, it burns the opponent, but that's never going to happen because you're a striker. You're not going to be tanking with Toucannon, right? Its defensive stats, again, they're just striker levels, right? Although they're probably, it's one of the better defense stats for a striker, but still, you're not going to be tanking with it. You will not be taking this physical hit, right? So that part is irrelevant, almost irrelevant. And then, again, its buffs are kind of whatever. Piercing Gaze. It's just straight up bad. Like, why does it even have Piercing Gaze? Its accuracies are both 100, unless you're just fighting opponents with like boosted evasiveness or like lowers your accuracy. Anyways, Toucannon's just bad, but again, it's the only other flying type you can use if you don't have blue, right? Which again, blue is the only other flying type that you can use. We desperately need a new flying type striker in this game. Anyways, moving on. Bronzong is probably going to be in this tier. It's situational, but it's like even more situational than Aegislash. Like, you mainly use Bronzong for telekinesis, so that like your moves don't miss on the opponent. It is like for a certain amount of turns though, so there's that to keep in mind. But you know, if you don't want to roll Troublemaker on your Agatha or Weeping Bells, or you know, or if you don't have any accuracy buffers, you could use Bronzong to like telekinesis the opponent, and then your moves won't miss afterwards, right? Or any other lower accuracy moves like Machamp's cross, or is it cross chop? Yeah, I think it's cross chop, right? So there's that, and there's also analysis complete. So it gives you resistance to the opponent, also gives you defenses, so you could kind of sort of tank with it. It just doesn't have heals, which is kind of sad. But yeah, there's also like flinch, small chance to flinch with Zen Head. Does that have aggravation? Yeah, it does. Yeah, so you have an okay chance to flinch with that. It's just again like really bad speed, very situational, right? So, moving on to the last one, probably in this tier. I'll put Clawlitzer in here. Here's the thing with Clawlitzer. Clawlitzer does like potato for damage. Like especially with all these new water type units coming out. With Berry Synchrid, right? Like, are you really, like, Sharpedo, are you really going to use Clawlitzer for anything? Right, so that's why Clawlitzer's down there. But Clawlitzer does have, like, some redeeming qualities, I guess. One being it has, like, relatively high special attack, for one. And then it has, like, good buffs. Ensures the next attack will be a crit, gradually heal itself. Like, usually ensures the next attack will be a crit is bad. But it does have critical focus 1, so it raises the crit rate when it lands a crit. So like you use this twice and then you're at 80% crit, right? Because every time you crit you get +1, and then like if you like crit one more move and then you're at 100% crit, right? So you could get 100% crit with this thing. X special attack, and then you also have the Aura Sphere coverage, and then Water Pulse. It just doesn't do much. It's just 2 gauge moves. They just don't hurt at all. Unfortunately. And then you do have heals as well, so there's that, which is slightly interesting. Moving on to the next year, I guess. I'm gonna put Chandler in here. Chandler, again, ghost type striker, gets outclassed by Mewtwo, Fantina, and now Drifblim that's coming out. Chandler, I mean, you have to like burn yourself, which is annoying, right? And like I don't think it has like Power Reserve 2 for your passive, which I think what they were trying to do was like, oh, you burn yourself and then you decrease your HP into a pinch, so you get Power Reserve 2 extra 20%. But then since you have yourself burn, once you're in that pinch, you like use one attack with Power Reserve 2, and then the burn just kills you. So the kit does not work out that well at all. And again, it just hits. It just doesn't hit as hard as like any of the other ghost type units in the game, right? Especially Mewtwo being free to play. So yeah, there's no point using Chandler. The other one, Tagetamaru. Tagetamaru is bad with some redeeming qualities. So here's like the most outrageous thing. Nuzzle is a 3-bar move, 20 power, 100% paralyzed. No one cares about this damage. Just take away the damage, make it 2 bars. Oh, well, if you take away the damage, it's not Nuzzle anymore. But like, just give it like Thunder Wave instead, or something, right? Like, all the other paralysis moves are better than Nuzzle. The damaging paralyzed moves, stuff like Thunder Shock, it's a 1 gauge move. This thing is 3 gauge. Although, again, Thunder Shock isn't 100% paralyzed, but, the ones that you generally use them on also have Hostile Environment. And then the ones that don't damage are 2 gauges, and this damage is basically negligible. This is, like, a horrible move, for the most part. But anyways, as for some other stuff, like, the reason why it's, like it's not, like, terrible, because it does have flinch as well, so you can para-flinch the opponent, which is pretty nice. I think it has endurance. Yeah, there's endurance. Drastically raise attack and speed. So there's that, I guess. Sharply raise special defense. Its stats are weird. Has good speed. Nothing else really matters. So there's that, I guess, for that. Moving on to the last tier. It's these three. Let's first talk about Marshall, I guess. Marshall, there's just literally no point using Marshall. Like, there's so many, like, fighting type units. You'd use everyone, well, any of these strikers, at least, You'd use any of these fighting type strikers before you use Marshall. There's just no point. Marshall, really, really bad speed. Like, what even is a special defense? And then, more importantly, like, its moves are whatever. Drain Punch. You're a striker, you don't really need to heal. I mean, it's good, but like it's not that good. Its buffs or whatever. Gritty 5. You're a striker, you're not gonna get hit ever, unless you're trying to like do like a Drain Punch with Gritty, so you could like you have Marshall draw aggro. so you could get that Gritty 5 activated, but then you will just like die because your defenses are bad. Even with like drastically raises, you know, you're still gonna die because your base is bad. Marshall is just straight up not good, unfortunately. You would just use every other fighting type over Marshall. As for Milk Tank, I honestly want to put Milk Tank even lower. Milk Tank just does nothing. It has like Body Slam. I'll just pull it up so you guys can see. Milk Tank basically does nothing. The stats are all over the place. Like, the stats, there's nothing good about the stats. X Speed, Body Slam, Stomp. I don't know. What is it doing? It's like Tagetamaru, but worse. Tagetamaru, at least it's 100% paralysis on that. And then, like, what do you have? You don't even have, like, hostile environment or aggravation on it. And then you have like Match Strength 2 for some reason. Like I guess it's like attack stat isn't bad, but like it's just 2 gauge moves, which again don't hit that hard. X Speed, and then you restore a bit of HP, sharply raises user defense. What's his defensive stats? Never mind. Anyways, then the last one, Lapras. Lapras is basically a slightly better Tectauros. And Tectauros is pretty bad. Lapras, it has AoE freeze on Blizzard, which again has really bad accuracy unless you use it in Hailstorm, which you probably don't want to do that because hail is bad. Hail use is bad. Ice Beam, XP, brace yourself. The lower the user's HP is, the more this raises defense, makes the user gradually heal itself. This is bad because like when you're at like 33%, that's when you get like +4. Like even if it's like 50%, you get +3. You probably would want this before you get down to that amount. But again, it's a better Tectauros because you tank better. It has good special defenses, right? It's just not that useful. AoE freeze with hostile environment. Like it's a 3 gauge freeze. You're not doing any damage, so this damage is irrelevant. It's a very costly unit to run on your team. Like even if you do want, like again, AoE freeze is, I won't say it's good because usually units get out of freeze relatively quickly, but AoE freeze is not bad. It's just it's too costly to use as a unit in general. So there's that, I guess. So anyways, well, that's me for this one. Just a quick ranking of all the GACHA 4-star units in the game. Again, none of them have sync grids, so their usability is all relatively limited. And most of them get like outclassed by something else. I think all of them, except for I guess Age Slash, because no one else really does Age Slash's job. Yeah, I guess no one else does Age Slash's job. So Age Slash, other than Age Slash, everyone else gets outclassed. Even like, you know, Bronzong, you just use an accuracy buffer instead, right? Yeah, pretty sad list of units. So there's that, I guess. Well, anyways, again, that's it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know, guys, in the comments down below. Like and enjoy this video, subscribe to the channel for some more Puppet Masters content. I'll see you guys in the next one.